And good afternoon. You just heard from Arcadia Credit Union because today is the third Monday of the month, and that means it's time for some wallet wisdom. We are joined in the studio now by Butch and Sarah.
Thanks, Buck. Good afternoon to all of our listeners. Welcome to Wallet Wisdom with Arcadia Credit Union and WHDL. And today we're talking about something that affects all of us, scams. From romantic frauds to the IRS calls, there's no shortage of ways scammers try to steal your money or your identity. Joining us today is Sarah Malashevsky from the Arcadia Credit Union, who's here to break down these scams and share some helpful tips on how to protect yourself. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm glad we're talking about this. As you and I were just talking, it's a growing concern, and we feel like education is really the best defense we have against these scams.
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, let's start out with the one we hear a lot about, the romantic scams and what they are. And I think we just talked about this. You said it's not just one type of scam. There seems to be more of them, and they seem to be getting more creative in them, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. So today, we'll highlight a few of them. But yeah, starting with the romance scams. Usually those start on your social media, even your dating websites. So, someone pretends to be interested in you, strikes up a relationship, and then once they gain your trust or they feel like they can pull that trigger, they start asking you for money. So sometimes they ask for help with like a medical emergency. Sometimes it's a travel issue. Sometimes they're overseas and want to come back. Sometimes they want to come visit you, they say. But yeah, they usually come up with a pretty good reason to ask you for money.
So if someone you've never really met in person or don't know that well starts asking for money...
Stop and think. Swipe left.
Yes.
On that scam. Never send money to someone you have not met in real life. Definitely not someone that you've met over the telephone or over the internet.
Okay, well, let's talk about another one, and that's spoofing. This one's a little less understood, I believe.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, this one is becoming more and more common. Our debit card provider, Shazam, has seen an increase in this type of fraud lately here in our area and in other parts of the country. So spoofing is when a scammer fakes a phone number or email to make it look like it's coming from a trusted source. I think we've all seen those calls show up that look like it's a phone number that we recognize. And so, they make it look like you're receiving a phone call from your bank or credit union, your debit or credit card provider, or even the IRS is one now. So, and then they follow it up with something called vishing, which is voice phishing, where they call you then and try to trick you into giving up your online banking credentials or other personal information.
I think the IRS one is the one that intrigues me the most because there are so many commercials about that they're the most powerful collection agency in the world, and they're probably telling the truth in some of these commercials and how to help you with it. But it's really put fear in a lot of people, hasn't it?
It has, and you need to protect yourself. Don't trust the caller ID alone. Do not click on a link or anything that's suspicious that is asking for personal information. That includes in text messages, because now they'll send you links via text message. And if you're in doubt, hang up. Call the person directly using a verified number just to see who, make sure if you've obviously got your financials number, there's a number on the back of your credit or debit card. So hang up and then call back the number that you know is trusted. It's also important to note that if you receive a text message from Shazam, which is at Arcadia Credit Union, that's our debit card provider, and they do send text messages out, and it's a common debit card provider. So even if you have your debit card with someone else, they're a pretty common one that provides those services to credit unions. They only ask you to reply with a yes or a no. So I get these sometimes, like I'm booking travel plans and it's outside of the state, and they'll say, all of a sudden I'll get a text, did you authorize? All they want is a yes or a no. So if there's a link there or they're asking for some information, that is not legit. So please do not click again on any links. And if it's legit, they'll just be asking for a yes or no answer.
We talked about this just briefly, or I brought it up, on the IRS scams. And I mean, those are coming up with more creative and crazy ways to try and get your money, aren't they?
They really are. And we're seeing these ramp up. And I think I agree with you. You know, you see the commercials trying to protect you if you owe money to the IRS. And those are, kind of trying to prey on you. But the biggest thing is, there are those, you're going to get those fake calls that were from IRS agents, and they're threatening to arrest you, deport you, lawsuits, unless you pay immediately. Often they want wire transfers and then the good old gift cards as well. So here's the truth, though. The IRS will never demand immediate payment. So that's a big red flag. If they're demanding payment right away, then that means, no, this is probably not legitimate. You probably do not owe money to the IRS. And then the other thing is, if they're asking for an immediate wire, that's a red flag. And then the gift cards. You know, you would think that would be obvious, but these people can be very convincing when they're on the phone. So if they're asking you to pay in gift cards, absolutely a scam.
Okay, how about job scams? Those can really be tricky, especially with more people looking for remote work and other ways to supplement their income.
Yeah, so unfortunately, if anybody's on LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of people reporting this, that they've applied for jobs, even gotten job interviews, and then it turns out that the job is fake. So, scammers are up with that. They're trying to do that. And a lot of the red flags are if all of a sudden you have to pay for training, supplies, certifications before you can start. That's usually the biggest red flag. You should never have to pay to get a job. And then always research the company, check for reviews or scam reports, because like I said, there are people out there now that are reporting these companies. And if you're out on these online places, you can look that up. Indeed's another one. Sometimes those are fake, so you have to be very careful, but check the reviews on the company, make sure you look up and make sure it's a legitimate company and make before you move forward with that.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about one that I know of personally. I know of people that have had this one run on them. It's the people call and pretend to be a grandchild or a niece or a nephew that's in trouble, and grandma, you got to help me if you could just and don't tell mom, and things like that.
Yeah, that's a scary one. It's the classic grandparent scam. This one's been around for a while, but it seems, again, like they're getting a little bit more sophisticated. I've heard people say it sounded just like a person I know. There's, some people that speculate AI is involved in some of this as well. And we can confirm, talking to the Trempealeau County Sheriff's Department, they have confirmed that these scams have hit locally over the past, 6 or so months. So definitely be aware of this. But yeah, the scammer will call, pretend to be one of your loved ones. Grandkids is a big one, but sometimes it's other people within the family. And they'll say they're in jail, need bail money, beg you not to tell anyone. Sometimes it's a medical emergency. And a lot of times they'll say they're traveling in a foreign country, sometimes just in another state. But a lot of times they're in a foreign country as well. And so they just want to strike fear. And again, they usually follow up with saying, don't tell anybody. I need bail money, but don't tell anybody. I'm in another country. I was traveling. Don't tell anybody. So always verify with your family member before you send any money. Call the actual family member directly, check with someone else in the family. I get it that the caller tells you not to do that, but I'm sure if a person in your family was in great trouble, such as being in a foreign jail or in a hospital and needing to make a payment for, an injury, I'm sure they'd be fine that you checked with somebody else within the family or called them directly. So always make sure to do that. I don't think they're going to be as mad as the scammer makes it seem. So, and then on a related note, it comes back to those gift cards.
Yeah.
A lot of these request payment with gift cards again, and that's a big no-no.
No big business or set business is going to ask for gift cards. They're going to want a payment.
I don't think you can make bail payments with gift cards. I've never tried, but I just am speculating.
Buck's laughing at us here. So.
I don't know if you know something we don't know, and I would assume hospitals don't like gift card payments either. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah. So usually that's the big red flag there.
You've won. That's another big one. You've won this prize, and all you need to do is this, this, and this. We've all heard of those going around, too.
Yeah, well, they work. Those are usually pretty successful. People get pretty excited when they get that phone call, and that's why they've been around for a long time. So if you get an email or a call saying you've won a prize or you've won the lottery, and then they ask for your credit card information or your bank information to process those winnings, then it's a scam. Never should you have to pay to claim a prize. Other thing is if you've won a prize but you never signed up with that company or you're not aware of that company and suddenly now you've won some money through them, it's a scam.
Yeah, be leery of it. Let's touch quickly here on some other identity theft and healthcare scams now with the health industry being so huge monetarily. They're finding ways to get money out of you that way, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the best things to do, so in order to prevent identity theft, healthcare scams, anything like that, is to check your monthly bank statements, check your monthly credit card statements, any financial statement that you get, check monthly. So that way you see if something is on there that seems amiss, if money has come out, money has come in, either way, you see if something is amiss. Because sometimes they'll put money in just to test that account too. So you want to watch that and see if there's anything that doesn't make sense to you. And the other thing is there are 3 credit bureaus and you're able to get your free credit report every year from those credit bureaus. So we highly recommend that you go out and get your free annual credit report. And if you see something suspicious, you need to report it right away. Healthcare scams. So a lot of times these start with a phone call where someone calls you offering you a huge discount, and then they ask for your Medicare number. So if they're asking for your health insurance information that you have, nobody's going to do that. If they're calling and claiming they're going to give you a big savings compared to what you have, but then they need information from you that is unique to you, it is a scam. So be very careful, very leery of those types of phone calls. And then you always, again, want to follow up with a phone call, a trusted phone number that follow up with a phone call to the actual company.
Okay, and finally, this is one that's, I don't know if this is new or not, I have heard of it, but the phishing emails.
Yeah. So don't click the link. These emails, this is where they're really getting sophisticated. The emails are looking more and more. You used to be able to hover over certain things and it wouldn't make sense. Now sometimes that doesn't always work. They're getting more and more legitimate, trying to get you to share your login credentials or download malware. So if an email seems off, again, it's coming from a company you're not aware of, or you have an account with them, but you don't want, you've never gotten an email from them before, don't click on anything, find a trusted number, call.
Okay, a lot of good information covered here, and I think one of the biggest things I've taken from this is the gift cards. If gift cards involved in a payment or something like that, about 99.99% of the time it's bogus?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so before we wrap things up here on today's Wallet Wisdom, any other words of final advice of wisdom or anything for us?
My biggest thing would be pause and verify. So those are the 2 things. If you're unsure or you think you've given out confidential information, like I said to you earlier, sometimes people do it and then they realize immediately once they've done it, call right away. Call Arcadia Credit Union, let us know.